The crystalline spires of the Galactic Strategy Council gleamed under the artificial suns of Nexus Prime, their surfaces reflecting the nervous energy of 1,000 alien delegates. Today marked the most significant challenge in the Council's 12,000-year history, the presentation of the Valthuran paradox, a strategic puzzle so complex that it had remained unsolved for millennia. Liza Chen adjusted her simple human attire, a stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by the other species, and walked toward the central platform. Behind her, James Rodriguez, her research partner and the only other human present, gave her an encouraging nod. They were representing Earth, a planet barely recognized by the galactic community, invited only as a diplomatic courtesy. The human delegation approaches, announced Zethkalar, the Valthuran high strategist, his 6 eyes blinking in what could have been amusement or disdain. How quaint. The assembled delegates, Zephyrians with their crystalline intellects, morphic, collective hive minds, and the ancient ethereal consciousness, watched with barely concealed condescension. Humans were newcomers, their civilization a mere blink of an eye compared to these ancient races. Most species present had evolved beyond physical form. Humanity still clung to flesh and bone. The Valthuran paradox materialized before them, a 3-dimensional holographic construct of impossible complexity. It resembled a cosmic chessboard, but with 17 different types of pieces, each following unique movement patterns that shifted based on temporal algorithms and quantum probability matrices. The board itself existed in 11 dimensions, with pieces that could phase between parallel tactical realities. For 3,000 years, our greatest strategic minds have attempted to solve this puzzle, Zethkalar intoned, his voice resonating through translation devices. The Zephyrian Computational Collective has dedicated 50,000 processing cycles to it. The morphic strategists have merged their consciousness 17 times in pursuit of a solution. The ethereal ancients have meditated upon it for centuries. James leaned toward Liza, his voice barely a whisper. They're really enjoying this, aren't they? Liza studied the puzzle, her brown eyes moving across the holographic display with the same intensity she'd once applied to 3-dimensional chess problems back on Earth. The other delegates began their presentations, complex algorithmic approaches, probability calculations that filled entire holographic screens, and philosophical treatises on the nature of strategic thinking itself. The Zephyrian representative stepped forward, its crystalline form pulsing with computational energy. Our analysis suggests 2.7 million possible opening moves, each branching into exponential complexity trees. We estimate a solution would require approximately 47,000 years of continuous calculation. Murmurs of appreciation rippled through the assembly. Such dedication to systematic analysis was precisely what the galaxy expected from its most advanced civilizations. The morphic collective spoke next, their voices harmonizing in perfect unison. We have achieved 17 levels of consciousness, merger, allowing us to perceive tactical relationships beyond individual cognition. Yet still, the paradox remains inviolate. Perhaps it is meant to teach us humility. More approving sounds from the delegates. The concept of learning through failure was considered highly evolved thinking. Finally, Zethkalar gestured toward the humans. And now our newest members may attempt the puzzle. Please do not feel inadequate when you inevitably fail. This paradox has humbled far greater minds than yours. Liza stepped forward, ignoring the patronizing tone. She'd heard it before, during her physics PhD at MIT, during her tenure at CERN, and now here, millions of light years from home. She examined the puzzle for exactly 47 seconds. Then she smiled. James, she said, not taking her eyes off the holographic display. Remember what Professor Martinez used to say about complex systems? James grinned. Sometimes the most elegant solution is the one nobody expects because everyone's overthinking it. Liza reached toward the puzzle interface. The assembled delegates watched with the polite attention one might give to a child attempting adult mathematics. She selected a seemingly insignificant piece, a small pyramid-shaped element that most species had dismissed as decorative. Move 1. She rotated the piece 90 degrees counterclockwise. The puzzle's configuration shifted slightly. Several delegates leaned forward, intrigued despite themselves. The Zephyrian representative's crystalline form flickered, the equivalent of raised eyebrows. Move 2. Liza selected what appeared to be the puzzle's most complex piece, a multidimensional construct that existed across 7 different tactical planes simultaneously. Instead of manipulating its position, she simply removed it from the board entirely. The holographic display convulsed. Probability matrices collapsed into simpler forms. The 11-dimensional playing field suddenly became comprehensible, its complexity unveiled as an elaborate illusion designed to intimidate rather than challenge. "Impossible," whispered the Morphic Collective, their unified voice cracking slightly. Move 3. With the artificial complexity stripped away, Liza could see the puzzle's true nature. It wasn't a strategic challenge at all. It was a test of perception. She selected the simplest piece on the board, a basic geometric shape that had been present from the beginning, and placed it in the exact center of the display. The Valthuran paradox dissolved into cascading light, then reformed as a simple, elegant symbol representing harmony and understanding. The solution had taken exactly 3 moves in less than 2 minutes. The silence in the chamber was absolute. Zethkalar's 6 eyes blinked in rapid succession, the Valthuran equivalent of stammering. But the calculations, the complexity matrices, were designed to distract from the real solution, Liza said gently. Sometimes the smartest approach is to stop being so smart. You created a puzzle so complex that you forgot to look for the simple answer. James stepped up beside her, unable to suppress his grin. Back on Earth we have a saying. When you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. You all heard hoofbeats and immediately started designing computational models for analyzing exotic, interdimensional cavalry. The ethereal consciousness, ancient beyond measure, began to emit what sounded suspiciously like laughter. The youngest species teaches the oldest how refreshingly human. As the assembly slowly began to acknowledge what had just occurred, Liza felt a familiar warmth. Not the satisfaction of solving a puzzle, she'd done that countless times, but the deeper joy of proving once again that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its intellect. It was its stubborn refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. The Valthuran paradox had finally been solved, not through superior computational power or evolved consciousness, but through the most human trait of all, the audacity to think differently when everyone else was thinking the same way. In the years that followed, the solution would be studied and celebrated throughout the galaxy. But Liza and James returned to Earth that day with something far more valuable than fame. The knowledge that humanity had earned its place among the stars, not by becoming something else, but by remaining uniquely, impossibly, wonderfully human.